Today we continue with the Diamond Sutra, section 12 or chapter 12, referring the proper teaching or respecting the proper teaching. In the Chinese language is 专重正教分第12. So let's read the first paragraph. He continues, Subhuti, wherever this sutra or even one of its 4-line stanzas is expounded, you should know that all devas, men and asuras, should make their offerings there as if the place was a Buddha stupa or a Buddha temple. How much more so if someone is able to receive whole in mind, read and recite the whole sutra. So continue from chapter 11, which says that if a virtuous man or woman receives and holds in mind even the 4-line stanzas of this sutra and expounds the meaning to others, the merit will be immeasurable, the merits will be inconceivable, the merits will be so much. In other words, there's so much benefits accrue from expounding even a 4-line stanzas to anyone. If the recipient of the sutra knows the meaning. If he doesn't know the meaning, then he does not know the philosophy behind it. If he knows the meaning, there's a lot of merits accrue to it, because you have planted the seed of enlightenment in his or her alaya consciousness. So 4-line stanzas. 4-line stanzas. What are these 4-line stanzas? Throughout some 1,700 years since the translation of this sutra, many monks and laymen have thought, according, of course, to their own opinion, that the 4-line stanzas do not strictly mean certain ones. And the stanza itself does not specify which 4-line stanza. But I think any words, any sentences, any phrases that contain the meaning that may tap the well of wisdom may be identified as such stanza. So any stanzas at all inside which can tap the wisdom, the well of wisdom from the individual, that's a 4-line stanzas. And I have found a few based on my opinion for your information. Now, if you hold the sutra, say section, let's go back. It's also good for a recapitulation or for a review. What are these? Well, in other words, these 4-line stanzas are the main ones, are the ones that would become your maxims or models for a lifetime maxim for you or for other individuals. So let's go to section 3 or chapter 3. In chapter 3, is there any important sentence in there? Is there anything that is of meaning? Very important meaning. Section 3, the 6th paragraph, which is on page 3. Why so, Subhuti, if a bodhisattva still has the false notion of an ego, a self, a personality, a person, a being, a life, a lifespan exists, he is not a bodhisattva. That is very important. So if a bodhisattva still has the false notion of ego, I'm practicing the way of bodhisattva. If I have the ego, if I have the fallacious notion, the fourfold notion, the ego, if I have the personality, now you know what that means. Ego is yourself. the ego that you have. Personality, the I, then the he or him or them or they, it's a duality. If you have I, there must be them, he and they. That's the personality. That's between you and others. The ego between you, of yourself and the egos of others. A being means all those surrounding, including material elements and mental elements. We all group that up as being. A life is continuity. You recognize, you think that it's always continuous, it's always permanent. You always cling on the fact that it's a permanent concept. So if a bodhisattva has the fallacious notion of ego, personality, being, and life, he's not a bodhisattva. So you must get rid of the ego first. Get rid of the ego, the personality, get rid of the attachment to all beings, material elements, mental elements, and the attachment to permanence. We always have that notion. Of course, when you rethink about it, when you sit down and think about it, everything is impermanent. But when you go out to the world to act, to speak, you won't think in terms of impermanence. You always think in terms of how do I keep my possessions? How do I keep my status, my wealth, and it's going to last? And you always, that impermanence concept is always so remote that you can't remember. If you remember that impermanent concept, you wouldn't have attached to it. You wouldn't have attached to anger, jealousy, hatred, and all that. So that's the first maxim. That's the 4-line stanza. So if you're talking to someone who is greatly egoistic, if you talk him into believing that he or she shouldn't have the fallacious notion of ego, personality, being, and life, and you're successful in doing it, the merits so accrue will be so inconceivable. Because he or she is enlightened. Even if it's not enlightened, now you already have planted that seed in his or her alaya consciousness. So that's the first, I think, the 4-line stanza. The second one is section 4, which is the first paragraph. He continues, Subhuti, when a bodhisattva practices generosity, his mind should not abide anywhere. That is to say, when making offerings, without a mind abiding in form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or things. We group that as Dharma, things. Dharma has two meanings. One is the grand, all things inclusive. Another meaning of Dharma is the Buddha's teaching. But in this case, it's the comprehensive meaning. So, a bodhisattva practices generosity. Why just generosity? Remember the 6 prajna paramitas? Generosity, morality, endurances, diligence, meditation, and wisdom. Generosity is just giving the first example. There's also practices morality, practices endurances, practices compassion, practices wisdom. So generosity is just an example from there without going through in detail each one. So when you practice generosity, the 6 prajna paramitas, one of the 6 prajna paramitas, his mind should not abide anywhere. In other words, don't attach to it. I am the giver and you are the recipient. I am the higher, you are the follower. I'm giving you the benefit, so I'm your elder. You're receiving benefits from me. My status is higher than yours. There's always, don't abide your mind in anywhere. Or if I give you this, if I'm generous and give out this gift to you or money to you to save you from trouble, I will get the benefit later. I will have merits accrue to myself because Buddha would know about it. Or Asuras will know about it. The whole world will know about it. So you're attaching to it. So do not abide your mind in any way. You've done that compassion, you've rendered compassion as if unconditional, as if you won't attach to it. So that is to say, when you make offering, you make it without a mind of binding, without attachment to form, to sound, to smell, to taste, to touch, or things, without attachment to the 5 environments. The form, environmental, form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or things. We all attached to these 6 external elements. We all attached to form. This is beautiful, this is ugly, this is red, this is green, this is round. We all attached to form. It's a nice car, it's a nice house, it's a nice boat, it's a nice outfit. That guy is handsome. This lady is beautiful. We're all attached to form. Who does not attach to form? So we attach to sound. Don't you attach to sound? Good sound, bad sound. You hate bad sound. You hate criticism. You like praise. You like music. You are involved with it. You're so involved with it that you forget all other things. Sound. Smell. Attached to smell. Examples go on. To taste. To touch. You attach to touch. This is soft. This is silky. This is nice feeling. Or for that reason, for many, many other things, there's nothing that we don't attach to. And this 4-line stanzas say, no attachment. It's because of attachment coming out from the egoistic feeling that gets us into trouble. That gets us into doing bad deeds of action, of speech, and of thought. And all these bad deeds will bring about bad causes, bad conditions, will result in bad effects, and sufferings will accrue from it. Okay, so that's section 4. Another section 4, there's another one, is a second paragraph. A bodhisattva should practice generosity without a mind abiding in false notions. Why? When a bodhisattva's mind does not abide in forms during practicing charity, his merits will be inconceivable and immeasurable. That is to tell you, no attachment, then the merits will be even more, much more than attachment. Section 5, third paragraph. The Buddha said to Subhuti, everything with form is unreal. If all forms, phenomenon, are seen as unreal, the Tathagata will be perceived. The Tathagata is the self-nature, the Buddhi, the Buddha nature. Everything with form is unreal, so don't attach to it. Why is it unreal? This hall is real. If this hall is form, why is it unreal? This hall is real, it exists, that's for sure. It is unreal because it exists only temporarily, it's impermanent. It exists based on causality. A lot of causes put together, then they exist. It exists because of the causes. And it does not have its self-nature. In other words, it doesn't come up by itself. It's not its own creator. It's all causes put together, then you have this. It's a conglomeration of causes only. Don't attach to this hall as, this hall. Don't attach to it. It's fictitious, it's unreal, but it exists. Unreal does not mean it does not exist. Unreal is because of causality, because of the temporalis, the transient nature of it. Your family is unreal. My family is unreal. Your body is unreal. My body is unreal. Why? My body only lasts for 100 years. And is formed because of many causes put together. I attach to it. I protect it. It gives me a lot of trouble though. It gets sick and it commits crime sometimes. It yells at people. It fights with people. It's committing sexual misconduct. It's stealing. It's lying. This is my body. I have to live with it because of karma. It is unreal. I thought it is real. I always think it is real. But the Buddha said it's unreal. Don't think of it as real. Because if you think of it as real, problems come. If you think of it as unreal, you won't attach. And you start to find out, why is it unreal? So, that's section 5. Section 6, last paragraph, which is on page 5. You should know, this is why Tathagata always said, bhikshus, you should know that the Dharma I expound, all the teaching I give to you, is likened to a raft. Even the Dharma should be cast aside, how much more so the non-Dharma. The Buddha, after telling all these things, body is unreal, and after telling you all these things, he said, what I told you is unreal too. Cast it aside. It's also unreal. Cast it aside. The Dharma I expound is likened to a raft. When that raft takes you from Nanaimo to Victoria, you're not going to attach to the raft. You're not going to attach to the Buddha's Dharma. You're going to leave. Attaching to it is no good too. You can't go ashore. It's likened to a raft. So the Buddha is telling us to let go bit by bit. First, let go of your body, your 5 skandhas. Let go of all this forced conceptualization. And finally, let go of the attachment to Dharma. But that's a higher level. First, let go of your body first, of our body. Section 7, third paragraph, why the Dharma which the Tathagata expounds cannot be clung to and cannot be expressed in words. It is neither Dharma nor not Dharma. That you don't cling to the Dharma, and the Dharma cannot be expressed in words. And I go into more details when I explain section 12 today. I'm just going through 4-line stanzas with you. Okay, section 8, last paragraph, which is next page. The so-called Buddhas and Dharmas are not real Buddhas and Dharmas. Section 10, 5th paragraph. This is why all Bodhisattvas and Mahasattvas should thus develop pure, clean minds and should not abide in form, sound, smell, taste, touch, and Dharma. They should develop a mind which does not abide in anything. I consider that as a very important one. We all should develop a mind which does not abide in anything. But you still must develop a mind. Some people say, since I don't attach, I don't have to develop anything. Just no thought. Just no thought, just sit there and doing nothing. No. You still have to develop the mind. But you develop it without attachment. In other words, you still have to be compassionate. You still have to be generous. You still have to be helpful. You don't retract because you don't think negatively. Since everything is unreal, I just hide myself in a cage and do my own work. No. You really have to develop your mind, but you develop it without attachment. The mind still have to be developed. So that's all the maxims. If you want to copy later, you can copy that on and use it as a maxim for you. There's a 4-line stanzas. Try to understand all these. And don't just try to understand it from a superficial meaning. There's a lot more behind it. To today's work, chapter 12. I have finished reading the first 2 paragraphs, and now I'm reading the third one. Subhuti, you should know that such a person will achieve the highest and various Dharma. Wheresoever this sutra may be found, the Buddha and his respective disciples will be there also. In other words, wherever the sutra is in the later generations, the Buddha is there. All his respective disciples will be there. The Buddha is here. So are you going to throw about this sutra and on the chair and sit on it? The Buddha is here. That's why I always have been saying, don't throw your sutras on the chairs and accidentally sit on it, because there's a Buddha in here. Why do I say collect all the books back? Because if I don't collect all the books back, then you would just throw it around and put it on by the side and step on it and even sleep on it. That is very unrespectful of the Buddha, because it says right here, whenever this sutra is, because this sutra can enlighten people. It's highly gracious, it's holy, it's saintly. You're not going to throw it around on a kitchen table, or you're not going to read it over a toilet. You're not going to read it anywhere. It is, the Buddha is here. The Buddha is right here. If you don't have highest respect for the sutra, you're not accruing any merits. Okay, section or chapter 13 now. This section is called Accepting and Upholding the Dharma of Suchness, or the Tathagata. Let's read it. Subhuti then asked the Buddha, World Honored One, what name should be given to this sutra, and how should we receive and hold it in mind? Next paragraph. The Buddha told Subhuti, this sutra should be called the Diamond Prajna Paramitta. You should receive and hold it under that name. In the Sanskrit language, it is also called the Vajra Chatika Prajna Paramitta Sutra. Diamond is Vajra Chatika. Third paragraph. Why, Subhuti? The Prajna Paramitta as expounded by the Buddha is not Prajna Paramitta, but is merely so called. We need to explain this, otherwise you don't understand. I said it again, the Prajna Paramitta as expounded by the Buddha is not Prajna Paramitta. That is the reason why it is being called. It seems to be contradictory. This sentence is another very important sentence. It could be one of the 4-line stanzas. When the Buddha is explaining the Dharma to us, he's using words, sentences, paragraphs, stanzas, metaphors, similes, lifetime, past life experiences, and so on and so forth, to express the meaning of the Dharma to us. But that is just the explanation. The real Dharma that is realized is what? Is free from the discriminatory mind, is free from the conceptualization, and is free from words. So the words, the sentences, the sutras, the metaphors, the similes, the example is not the real Dharma. It's just expression. So the explainable Dharma is not the real Dharma. But if you don't use words and sentences, how can you express it to sentient beings? You really have to use concepts and language to explain it. However, don't take that concept, words and sentences as the real Dharma. That's just the raft. The real Dharma is pure, and in it contains nothing. It is not contaminated by anything, let alone expressions in the form of language. So what is the real Dharma? The real Dharma is only fully comprehended when you become the Buddha. But sometimes when you are sitting in meditation, if all of a sudden you get that very clear mind, very pure mind, you may have a glimpse of it sometimes. All of a sudden you may have a glimpse of the Dharma. You may see a little light of the Dharma. It's just like when we are living in that prison, our ego prison, and sometimes there may be holes in there, the bright light will shine through to you and get a glimpse of it. Because when you're meditating, you're piercing through the wall of the ego prison. You're trying very hard to use a drill. You want to break the wall of the ego. And sometimes you're successful in drilling a little hole because you've tried so much in the purification. When that hole pierces through, the light comes through, and you get a glimpse of it. And you already, it's very joyful. Oh, I see light. There's only a glimpse, as small as the hole in the wall of the ego prison. Of course, when all the ego prison, the wall of the ego prison, your own ego, our ego, crumbles, then you see everything. That's the time when you get the enlightenment. So after you have put the sutra down and go about living your daily routines, when you come to think about this sutra, do you think about it in terms of words and sentences? Yes, we do. We go about, after we finish with this meditation class and we go about doing our work, then we try to memorize some of these maxims and write it out, and we attach to the words, the sentences, the phrases, and we think in terms of conceptualizations. If you may still be in the level of conceptualizing the meaning, using the discriminatory mind, the sixth consciousness, the mano consciousness. So at that moment, the Dharma you think about is not the real Dharma. It is only a guidance from the explanation of words to lead you to the real Dharma. Do you see the meaning of this paragraph? So it says, the Prajna Paramita, as expounded by the Buddha, is not the real Prajna Paramita. It's only merely so-called. It's just the means of it. For example, when you chant some of the stanzas, one of which is, of course, the fourfold fallacious concept, no ego, no personality, no being, and no life, you may be just thinking about those words. You rely on the words. If these words do not exist in your mind, you cannot think about the Dharma. Such is not the real Dharma. That's only wisdom of the words. In the Chinese language, when they translate it, they call it 文字般若. That is wisdom of expression of the words. There's also wisdoms of practice, of contemplation, and the true wisdom. The words help you to contemplate and get into vipassana. And when you get into that contemplation, you successfully have grasped the meaning and have it in your mind, and you don't rely on the words and sentences anymore. That's the time when you go into another level, not the words level, not the sentences level. Because the real Dharma is free from all the senses. It's also free from the manas vijnana, which is the seventh consciousness. The alaya consciousness is tainted and is certainly not the real Dharma. So what is the real Dharma? The real Dharma cannot be talked about. You realize it when we'll realize it when our mind is free, it's all free from mental afflictions, when it is free from conceptualization, when it is free from the ego, when it is pure and peaceful. And sometimes you may get a glimpse of it, as I said, when you pierce through the wall of the prison of the ego. But most people, if they don't really know about it, they always maintain their ego as their own identity. They always say, this is me, this is I. And they go about doing it as if I have an identity. The Buddha said we don't have that ego, and somebody interpreted this, we don't have the identity, and they feel very pessimistic about it. Oh, I don't have an identity. Because we're so much used to the ego. When you talk about not having I, we're not comfortable. We want I to exist. But as I said, what is this conglomerated I? It is nothing but 5 skandhas. Form, which is the body, perception, conceptualization, volition, and consciousness. Form is the material element of this perception, conception, volition, and consciousness is the spiritual elements, the non-material elements, the body and the mind. And we can't even control them. They work on karma. We can't even control. So remember the story about a man who has never seen the moon. Remember the story about a man who had never seen the moon, and some wise man pointed his finger to the moon and said, "Listen, here, that is the moon." The unintelligent man said, "Oh, I know now, this is the moon." So don't mistake the finger for the moon. This is just a finger. Don't take this as, this finger is good enough. But without this finger, you can't see the moon. This is just a finger. And the unintelligent man, like the average unenlightened man, they think this is the finger. This is the moon. That's the moon. They don't look there. Remember the stanza in the sutra, section 6, last paragraph. You should know that the Dharma I expound is likened to a raft. Even the Dharma should be cast aside. How much more so the non-Dharma? You need the Dharma. It does not mean that I don't need it because it's unreal. You still need it. Do you need the boat to Victoria? I don't need the boat from Nanaimo to Victoria. No. You can't unless you swim. You need it. You can't say, I don't need it. You need it. But after you have used it, you have to cast it aside. Let go of it. Thinking about it, even the Dharma, we have to let go. Let alone our body, let alone our identity, our ego. Even the Buddha's teaching, we have to let go. Not to say our minute little ego. You still attached to your own ego? It's easy to talk about it. When we read the Diamond Sutra, yes, it teaches us how to get rid of the ego. Yeah, I should. But when you walk out to the daily world, we're all egoistic. We forget about it. Because it's easy to talk about it and difficult to practice it. We need to change our mode of thinking. We need to change our habitual mind. Our habitual mind always think in terms of me, identity, ego, self. This is extremely difficult to get rid of. It's very difficult to crumble down the wall of our ego. It's not easy. We've been in that ego, we have been that prisoned, the ego prisoned, for many, many lives. We're living in that comfort zone. We think it's comfortable. It's a comfort zone that we like to live in. We don't know there's an outside world. So that's the explanation for this paragraph. Prajnaparamita, as expounded by the Buddha, is not Prajnaparamita. That is why it is called. It's not Prajnaparamita, it's considering it from the perspective of the essence of it, from the noumena of it. That is why it is called, is viewing it from the matter form, and the other is viewing it from the non-matter form, the metaphysical, and this is the physical. So there's two parts to it. The essence of it is not Prajnaparamita, but the phenomenon of it, the appearance of it, it is. That's why it is being called. It's a name. There's a name for it. Next. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Tathagata expound the Dharma? Subhuti said, well-honored one, the Tathagata does not expound anything. Subhuti, what do you think? Are there many particles or dust in the universe? Now, why does Subhuti said the Tathagata does not expound anything? Well, explain something. How come it does not expound anything? Because what is being expounded is based on causality. It comes together based on causality. The supreme enlightenment talked about by the Buddha finds this expression through causality. What is causality? The concept, the causality in the Sanskrit language is pratyaya samutpata. It's cause and effect. Causality is cause and effect. If there's a cause, there must be an effect, and vice versa. All dharmas arise, abide, change, and disintegrate according to the law of cause and effect. All phenomena arise because of conditions, because of cause, conditions, and causes are direct, conditions are indirect. All are independent existence. They depend on each other. It's like a web. How are they related? It's very complicated. If causes and conditions do not exist, no result will come into being. If there's no cause, no conditions, you won't come here. The fact that you are here today is because of many causes and conditions put together. Some causes and conditions could have stopped some people who intended to come here, that they're not successful in coming here because the causes and conditions for them are not put together. There are causes and conditions for you being yourself coming to this world. There are causes and conditions for you being born in your family. There are causes and conditions for your son or your daughter to be born in your family. There's so many causes and conditions put together. But all these are unreal, like a dream. Like when you are dreaming, you think it is real. In your sleep, when you're dreaming, the dream is absolutely real. In your dream, you'll say, oh, I'm dreaming and this is not real. This is unreal. When you are dreaming, you won't say, I'm dreaming now of this and I know it is unreal. You won't do it like that. You are involved in the dream. When you woke up, then you know it's unreal. We're now in that daydream. We're in that life dream. Same. Why? What is the nature of a dream? It's impermanent. It's many causes put together. What are the causes and conditions put together for you to have that dream? Past reflections of your sixth consciousness. You're creating all these images for all these conditions to come true. Past experiences, plus the creation of the sixth consciousness, then you create that scenario in your dream. But that scenario is made out of creation of causes and conditions. It's not real. It is real at that time when you're creating it. So anything that arises and disappears based on causality, and it is called, in Buddhism, it's called sunyata. Empty is empty. It's void. It's sunyata. What is the meaning of emptiness? Remember the emptiness? Sunyata? We have discussed about this in detail before. It is a very important concept. It is empty. Don't attach to it. But what is emptiness? Let's re-examine it again, very briefly. According to the meaning of sunyata, or emptiness, everything, material and mental, everything, which material, if we try to include all things, it is under two categories. It's either material or mental, body or mind, physical and metaphysical. Now, everything is characterized by causation. It won't come into being by itself. Like this book, will it come into being by itself? All of a sudden, this book appears? So that's the reason why the Buddha said there's no creator, there's no creator God who created himself. There's nothing, because that contradicts the law of cause and effect. There's no one say, I created the world. Then who created you? So what is this universe? How does this universe arise? This universe arises out of causation, out of thoughts, out of causality. Then what's the first cause? If there's a first cause, there must be a last cause. If there's a last cause, that means you're believing in nihilism. You're believing in only one life. Because if there's a first, there's a last. If there's a last, that means there's a termination. If there's a termination, you're breaking the loop of causation, which is, again, contradicting causation, contradicting causality. When you're asking, what is that first cause? What's the universe created? You're contradicting in your mentality, and you don't know about it. You're asking that question like a kindergarten, asking, teacher, who creates me? My dad creates me? But he doesn't know. He doesn't know causality. Causality is very complicated concept. There's no beginning. There's no end. If there's a beginning, there must be an end. If there's an end, that means there's the termination. If there's a termination, it's not right. Because all this energy is always changing form. It's non-stop. It's always coming back in different forms. It arises, abide, change, and disintegrate. Arises, abide, change, and disintegrate. It's in a cycle. We have spring, autumn, summer, and winter. Does it say it terminates in the winter? December terminates winter, no more spring? Can anyone say there's a termination, there's a beginning in the spring, the winter is a termination of the 4 seasons? No. The death is the beginning. The end is the beginning. The beginning comes to an end. So according to the meaning of shunyata or emptiness, everything is characterized by causation. It does not mean that things do not exist, but rather they are nothing but appearances. Third, all things are non-self. In other words, they don't have a self. Svabhava. Remember self? If they have a self, that means they can create themselves. That means they don't depend on causation. That means they're permanent. What is this self concept? If you call something that has a self, that has a true self, that means that can be created out of itself. That does not depend on causality. That is permanent. But I've never found a thing like that in the world. I've never found anything that is permanent. I've never found anything that is created by itself without causes. Can you find something like that? You tell me. Anything that is created without causes, it comes into being by itself, and it's always permanent. If you can find that thing, please tell me. I can't find it. And you say, yeah, that's God. Well, you're contradicting yourself. Okay, all things are non-self. All things are impermanent. Nothing is self-created and come into being on its own creation, on its own endeavor. And causality covers 3 time dimensions: past, present, and the future. Not just the present. If you only believe in the present, you're not believing in causality. You're not believing in emptiness. You're not believing in shunyata. If you only believe in this present life, you don't believe in the law of nature. The law of nature tells us that time, it's non-stop. It's 3 dimensions. It's the past, present, and the future. When you end up this life, if there's no more life, it contradicts with nature. It contradicts with the law of causality. Each cause and condition has 3 moral qualities. In everything you do, it has 3 moral qualities. It's either goodness or evil or neutral. Right now, I am cultivating a condition. I'm hitting someone because that guy is it's infringing on my property, and I want to drive him out and doesn't want to go, so I'm hitting him. So assuming that is a cause, I'm just assuming it. That cause is not a good cause. And sometimes helping others, being compassionate is a good cause. So it has three moral qualities in every cause and condition. It's either good or bad or neutral. Neither good nor bad. And same with karma. The nature of a karma is either good, bad, or neutral, which encompasses all the nature. Is it the three. So, because the Dharma is empty, it arises on causality and has no self-nature, it cannot be regarded as real Dharma. Well, let's continue. Subhuti. Are there many particles of dust in the universe? Subhuti replied, many, well-honored one. Subhuti the Tathagata says these particles of dust are not real, but are merely called the particle of dust. The Tathagata says the universe is not real, but it is merely called the universe. Why is it not real? I already explained it to you. It's causality. It's not real. Not real does not mean it does not exist. It exists on causality. Subhuti, what do you think? Can the Tathagata be perceived by means of his 32 physical characteristics? No, well-honored one. The Tathagata cannot be perceived by them. Why? Because the Tathagata says they are not real, but are merely called the 32 physical characteristics. The Buddha's Nirmanakaya, the body of transformation, has 32 meritorious features and 80 minor characteristics. But these are unreal too, because they form on causality because of enlightenment, because of the merits accrue. They're not real. Don't attach them to as real. So you don't perceive the Buddha as if that's the Buddha. Yes, those are the meritorious features, but they are on causality. They form on causality only. Don't attach to them. Next paragraph. Subhuti, if on the other hand, a virtuous man or woman in giving alms sacrifices as many lives as there are sand grains in the Ganges, and on the other hand, someone receives and holds in mind even the 4-line stanzas of this sutra and expounds it to others, the merit of the latter will be greater. That means explaining the meaning of this so that people do not attach, so that people become not egoistic, getting onto the path of enlightenment. The merits so obtained will be much more than giving out treasures as many as the sands of the Ganges River. So that's section 13. We have to stop here for lunch. And if you have any further questions, you can ask in lunch. You can write out on the piece of paper, and we can talk about it. But today we have talked about simultaneous causality, which is a very profound concept that you really have to know to understand sunyata and emptiness.